Hello everyone, welcome to your first video lesson. In this lesson we're going to cover your first two songs which will eventually be graded, Flamenco Fantasy and Folk Song. But before we do that, I want to walk through the book that we're going to be using and just some of the features of the book just so that you can be aware. Here's the book that we're going to be using throughout this semester. It's Bellwin's 21st Century Guitar Method and it's Guitar Method 1. There's also a second book and a bunch of other supplemental resources if you're interested in doing any of that on your own. But you definitely need this book for us to be able to complete the course. And we can talk about how you can get access to this during some of our in-class meetings. Now, if we open up the book, there's some things that you should be aware of, just so if you need to reference back to them, you can see them. So the first thing here, it shows you the different types of guitars. This first one up the top is a semi-hollow body guitar, and it's electric, so that means it has pickups in it to be able to be played through an amplifier. And then the bottom two are the ones that we've already discussed. There's the steel string acoustic and then the classical nylon string guitar. So it just shows those three. And it also goes over the parts of the guitar again. If you happen to need to see it in written form, check your book out. All right. This next page shows you correct posture for both standing and sitting, which would be slightly different based on the type of guitar that you're using, but this is a good reference guide to start off. And then the next page talks about tuning your guitar, which I'm going to put up a video at some point showing you some different methods to tune your guitar. We're just not quite there yet. The next two pages, you'll be covering this information in music theory. It talks about where some of the notes go on the staff when we're reading music. It talks about, not tablature yet, but we'll get into tablature. And it also talks about some basic rhythm type things you've heard probably before in past music classes: whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and rests and all that stuff. This goes over some of those basics. Okay, we'll be reviewing them in this video as you get into the actual songs, and then also in some of the theory lessons that we're going to be doing here soon. Now, here's the meat of the stuff we're doing. Every guitar unit is going to be based on a certain amount of songs, and usually for each of those songs we introduce new strings. Now once we get to the G string on the guitar, the third string, it'll go for a few songs because combining those three strings together is usually a bit of a challenge, but we'll keep working with it. So for this, we introduce a brand new string, and you can see that it shows you a few different things. First off, for the pictures of what it looks like to play them. So the high E string, the first string that we learn, the open string, the one that's furthest away from us whenever we're playing, is just the very bottom string right there, right? Just the silver string. And that note, if we play it open, is the note E. And it tells you that above the picture, right? Note E. The second note that we play is first fret on that string. So we push down in first fret, remember, between the two fret wires, and we get the note F. And then the third note is the note G. If we push down the third fret on the first string, we get the note G. So we have open E, first fret F, and then third fret G. Now, right below each of those pictures shows you two more things, some information. So to be able to play the music, which if you're looking over here you can already see, but to be able to play the music, it shows us the staff and what the notes look like on the staff. Now here we have a treble clef and then a note that's in the top space, right? So if we number from bottom to top, which you've learned in a theory lesson, bottom space is 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 spaces. The top space is the note E, and we use this whole note right now as a placeholder. Now over in these songs, you will see whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes, but just as a placeholder for the note E, we're going to use this whole note, and it's in the top space. For the note F, that note appears on the top line, or line number 5, right? We count from bottom to top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put a whole note there just as a placeholder for now. You can also see quarter notes and half notes. But right here, that note is F. And then our final note for this unit is the note G. Now this note occurs above the staff, right? If you've been paying attention to the theory stuff, we know that the staff extends past the 5 lines and 4 spaces. We'll get into ledger lines, but for now, this note just sits on the very top of the staff, and it's G. Right, so just an up-close picture, right? E is in the top space, F is on the top line, and G is above the top line. Now the final thing, and the one that I use a little less often, is tablature. We'll get into this later in the semester, but for now, tablature. So it has 6 different lines compared to the staff, which has 6 lines, right? And this top line here, where the number is, that's referring to the high E string. If we go to the next one, the B string, then the G string, and then the bottom one is the low sounding E string. But for right now, this top one where the number is the E string. And you see that there's a 0 written there. That 0 means that you play the E string open, right? So you just strum the string by itself, and that gives us the note E. For F, in the second one, it says to put a 1 down. That means put your first finger in the first frets, and that gives us an F. And then for the G over here, on the high E string, it has a 3. That means to use your third finger in the third fret. Right, so there's 3 different ways for you to be able to know what the notes are and where they go on the staff. The picture, right, here at the top. The actual staff with the treble clef, right, it tells you where the notes are on the staff, and that's how we'll be reading over here. And then it has the tablature just as a reminder. It tells you which fingers go where, right? So we have those 3 things. At the bottom of this page, there's a few exercises. You're welcome to work through those, but we won't do them as a group. We might do them in class, but we won't do them as a group on this video. Now, over here, you have 2 songs to complete on this page for your first proficiency, which is just a playing test. You'll submit it via Schoology and everything will be great. No worries, no stress. But we have 2 songs. The first one is Folk Song. And then the second song we're going to do this time is called Flamenco Fantasy, right? You're welcome to play this song down here, but we're not going to do it as our test. We're just going to use these 2, Folk Song and Flamenco Fantasy. Now, if you look really close, you can see that it has quarter notes. We have a whole note here, and then we have half notes in that second measure. These quarter notes, right, the ones that are black and filled in, they're worth 1 beat. In measure 2, they're worth 2 beats, and then measure 3, the one with the whole note, that's worth 4 beats total, right? So if we're counting, right, if this is my beat, quarter note moves with it, da, 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 da. Half note would be 2 of the snaps, da, da, and a whole note would be 4 snaps, da, right? So that's those 4 different, just how long we hold the notes. And then you have to look and see where they're written. So if you look at the first note here, it's an E, and we know that because the quarter note is written in the top space. And if we go back over here, we know that the note in the top space is E, right? So that means we would play 3 E's in a row, E, E, E. Then this note changes, right? It goes up to the top line, and that's an F. We can check while the other page. So E, 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 F, and then we have a G half note because it's above the staff. G, G. All right, so that's how we'll go through. And you might want to just look at the music first, get an idea of what you're doing. And then feel free. There's no speed that you have to play right now to be able to do this, as long as it ends up sounding like music, right? Take your time. No reason to stress. No reason to stress. Folk Song and Flamenco Fantasy. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to play through Folk Song. You should pull out your music. Make sure you're looking at it. You have it in front of you while I'm playing, just so you know what I'm doing, all right? Okay, this is Folk Song. I'll be looking over here because that's where the music is. I'll play through the whole thing, and I'll count it off first for the start. Later on, you're welcome to play along with me. This is about the tempo you should go for your proficiency. Folk Song. 1, 2, ready, and... Okay, so that's Folk Song. The last note got 4 beats, so I have to make sure and I'll let the string sustain for all 4 counts. All right, and you're welcome to tap your foot or play with a metronome. Either of those 2 things are fine. Okay, here's your second song, Flamenco Fantasy. Feel free to play along if you're ready to do that. If not, reference back, play parts. You know, you can start and stop the video. That's the awesome part about this. Okay, Flamenco Fantasy. I'll count it off again. 1, 2, ready, and... Okay, so there's the first 2 songs that are going to be for your first proficiency. Now, just a reminder, as you're playing through these, remember to take your time. There's no reason to stress and play things too fast. Second thing, When you're using your pick, and make sure you're using a pick. You're not just using your thumb. You need to have a pick. They're really cheap. If you need one, come find me. I'll give you one. But make sure that you're using them. All of the strumming should be downstrokes, meaning you're starting from the top of the guitar and moving down to the bottom, right? All of the strokes are downstrokes for now. There's no reason to do upstrokes, which would be the opposite, right? Everything is downstrokes until we get a little bit further in the book, and then we'll add the upstrokes in. So remember, use this video to benefit you. Refer back to what you need. You can skip ahead. You can go back, pause when you need to. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to message me through Schoology. You're welcome to email me too. I'll get back to you, and I'll make this awesome. Have fun, enjoy, and go create some music.